Hello, Squatchers. So this week's video is going to be all about the PCT. I kind of wanted to learn about the trail that I was going to be going on. I knew what it was, I knew about where it was, but really I didn't know much about it. And I found it pretty intriguing, and I thought I would share that all with you. So first of all, PCT stands for Pacific Crest Trail. This trail runs on the West Coast going through Washington, Oregon, and California. It is one of the three major long trails that we have here in the United States. And by major long trails, I just mean the most popular. That being the PCT, the CDT, and the AT. So why don't we dive into some of the actual history of the PCT? Why was it created? You know, who thought of it? Who thought it was a good idea? The creation of the PCT started in 1920 by a man named Fred Cleater, who was creating the route of the Oregon Skyline Trail. Then, in 1926, it was extended by Catherine Montgomery, as she proposed for the trail to be continuous through California, Oregon, and Washington State. Not much was done with this proposal until 1932, when Clinton Clark, who later becomes known as the father of the PCT, began promoting the trail, and true exploration of the trail begins. 5 years later, in 1935, the Pacific Crest Trail System Conference held its first meeting, establishing a continuing council to ensure the growth and continuous existence of the trail. The council, seeking help to pinpoint a true trail, reached out to the YMCA. The YMCA, with the lead of Warren Rogers and scouts, started to map out a true trail route. By 1939, the PCT has a true trail and appears for the very first time on federal governmental maps. Due to World War II, work on the trail halted for some time, but by 1968, the Pacific Crest Trail was finally designated as a National Scenic Trail. None of this would have occurred if it wasn't for the hard work and dedication of so many volunteers, something that is still true today. Today, over 100,000 volunteer hours are conducted by PCTA members, which is the council now renamed. And I want to take time to thank all those volunteers, not just on this trail, but on all the trails and all the hard work that they do across the United States. The length of the trail is 2,650 miles. It travels through Washington State, starting at the Canadian border, goes through Oregon, through California, and ends in Southern California at the Mexican border. The height of the trail ranges from sea level to 13,153 feet. With the PCT being so long, it passes through a vast of different kind of terrains. In Washington State, you can expect to see high mountains and beautiful green woods, but I've heard the mosquitoes are enough to make a person go mad out there, so they're definitely something you're going to want to protect yourself against. Oregon, though having its own uniqueness, shares a lot of qualities with Washington State, with its high mountains and its beautiful green terrain. California is where you start to see a shift in climate. In the northern part of California, you see a similar climate to what you've seen in the mountains of Washington and Oregon, though it is in California where you see the tallest mountain peak at Forester's Pass at an impressive height at 13,153 feet. For reference, if you were to go skydiving, before you're able to jump out, the plane levels at 14 to 15,000 feet, so you can make that amazing jump. So yeah, you're up there. After you make your way through the mountain region, you start to enter the more desert climate of California. It is this change that really makes the PCT diverse. To hike the PCT definitely takes a lot of planning. It really isn't something that you just want to go to REI, grab a bag and fill it full of a bunch of stuff and think you can just walk out there on the trail. There are a lot of different things to consider. When consider your planning of the PCT, the first thing you really want to look at is the weather. Weather is a large concern on the PCT, or more, snow is. You want to make sure that you are out of the Sierras before the snow season begins. The other weather to be concerned is the heat in the desert. You want to make sure that you properly manage your movement and your water while moving through this area. The reason why on the PCT water is such a concern is especially in Southern California when moving through the more desert regions, the ability of water or the areas to get it are quite spread out. You're not looking at the AT where every 5 to 10 miles you're going to find yourself a water source. You may be looking at 20 before you can get to that day's water source. So it's definitely something to make sure of. While doing a through hike, one thing you must consider is how you're going to resupply. This is where you get your food and other items that you may need. In a trail like the AT, the average days between resupply points are 3 to 5 days. This differs from the PCT. On the PCT, it is a longer stretch of more like 5 to 10 days. This means as a hiker, you have to be more prepared for these stretches. And you have to know the proper amount of supplies that you're going to need to get you from one point to the next. Another important part of your planning is making sure that you know whatever regulations there are for whatever regions you have to be crossing in that part of the PCT. An example of this is the requirement of bear cans. Bear cans are required in areas where bears are a huge concern. On the PCT, this area stretches from Kennedy Meadows, mile 702 in the south, to the Serena Pass, mile 1017, and again in Lassen Volcanic National Park, mile 1343 to mile 1363. So it's important to make sure that you know in these regions what is required of you and what you can and cannot do. Another important part of planning is to know if you need permits to hike the trail, and how many, and where are they. The PCT has so many permits that it probably could be called the permit carry trail. There is, in total, 33 permits that are needed to hike the entire trail. However, this process is made easier by going through the PCTA and getting one through hiker's permit or long distance hike permit that anyone doing over 500 miles can achieve on the PCTA website. With getting your permits to the PCTA, the one warning that I will give is they only give out a certain amount of permits per day, and everybody in the world signs on at the same time to try to get those permits. So in order to try to get in and get a permit is kind of like Hunger Games, where may the odds be ever in your favor as you try to sign up to try to get your permit. The reason why they do this, though, is they're trying to spread out their hikers. By spreading out hikers, the trail gets less impacted by heavy traffic, and it's to help preserve the trail for not just you, but people in the future to be able to enjoy. So just make sure that you understand what permits that you need and you've pre-looked at and pre-read the PCTA website so you understand how their process worked and you're more prepared to do it. If you guys are interested in learning more about that, I could make a video about the process that I went through. Just let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in seeing. The last part of planning that I would say is really important is understanding what nature is in the area that you're traveling. By that I mean, what kind of animals are you going to have there? What do you do when you come in contact with those animals? This not only protects you, the hiker, but it also protects the animals themselves, ensuring that they are safe and they're acting safely around humans so that they don't have to, unfortunately, get euthanized, which we've seen happen a lot with black bears around these trails that just get used to people being a food source. It's also important to know what kind of woods there are, what kind of plants there are, what's safe to touch, what's not safe to touch, what's endangered. It's just always good to know how to act around whatever region that you are in. So folks, that is just a quick little video on the PCT itself. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I can't tell you how excited I am that the PCT is going to be the trail that I'm going on. It's an area in the United States that I've only spent a brief amount of time in before, and I'm really excited to really get out there and absorb it and get to see everything out there and get to start this huge adventure. And I can't wait to take you all with me. So if you guys wouldn't mind, please like this video, share, talk about it, get in the comments, share facts that you know, share things that you want to learn, share something new that you never knew before. I'm really enjoying making these. I'm really enjoying sharing them. And it's kind of neat now to be sharing with you things as I learn and as I do research. So with that, I'll see you later, friends. Squatchers, everybody, have a good time. Thank you for watching.